All right. Hello. 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 It is September 2nd. It's a Wednesday. It's a full moon in Pisces. And so this is so weird. I didn't plan it. It just sort of like fell out this way that our Infinite Possibilities class today is on emotions. And our full moon is all about emotional intelligence. So it's like this continuance of a conversation, and that's pretty cool. That's really pretty cool. And this is what I did get this kind of prepared just to sort of keep us on track. I'm going to share my screen here and go to the whiteboard. Okay, so here are our key points today around emotions. Our emotions are the product of our beliefs and perceptions.
I can't, oh, there it is. There it is. Thank you.
Emotions are life's feedback system. And unpleasant emotions can point to limiting beliefs about certain situations. So before we talk about those points, I'd love for us to check in. Last week, we had a pretty powerful conversation around beliefs. And then, as I was moving through my week, kind of like replaying pieces of that conversation and how it kind of ties into this week, because we're looking at, how these things work together, beliefs and emotions and thoughts. And so let's just start out. Let's take a few minutes to reflect, just take a few breaths and think about what has shifted for you since our last session. Think about what was your biggest takeaway from our last session around beliefs. And how did you feel this week and why? So I just wanted to give us all a few minutes of just reflection on those things, and then let's just kind of share a check-in about this past week and what's been shifting. What have we been noticing? What have we been feeling? Go ahead, Shelley.
So do you want me to talk?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Well, I don't, honestly, last week seems like a really long time ago. But what I can tell you is that, I'm in a new job, and it's like the greatest job ever. And I get like full creative freedom, and it's really awesome. But the company is growing really, really fast, and so now I have someone. We've hired someone to work with me already, and it's only been a month. And I know her. She was in my certification class, so I know her. I like her. I feel fine about that, but I just have some kind of resistance to, even though it's going to make my life easier because I've been working way more hours than I was, commissioned to work. So it's going to make my life easier, and I still have some sort of feeling about some sort of resistance about it.
Mm.
So I think that that's some kind of emotion that's a product of a belief or a perception that I have. And so I'll be interested to see if it gets resolved tonight or some light shines
Yeah.
upon the topic.
Yeah. Thank you for that check-in. That's it. I love having these classes with other coaches or people who are like, really into the work, because we are raising our self-awareness. Some of these feelings, these emotions, when we feel whatever that trigger is, the you can tell you've really shifted, right? So I just like that, I'm wanting to celebrate and acknowledge that shift, because I'm sure you can remember the times when that just would have been a trigger and you just would have reacted and it would have turned into a thing, or or at least that's my story, right?
Yeah, that's true.
And it's what a powerful tool to to become curious about our emotions, and not judging them right away, but being open to, okay, I'm experiencing something and it's unpleasant, and instead of just reacting, to just, as you're doing, you're kind of pulling yourself back, you're breathing, you're getting a little self-reflective around, okay, what, there's something there. Yeah, this emotion, this triggering emotion is pointing towards something in me that I need to look at. And so, you've really kind of taught our first point. But I'll go ahead and check in. But I mean, beautifully done. Good job.
Well, I blame the universe.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so this isn't gonna. You and I had a kind of an offline conversation last week, and so I'm not going to go into the details around that, but just for contrast, I was sharing with you how I was sort of readjusting to having my man friend in my space for a time, and like kind of like the dance of cohabitation and communication, and then something very dramatic happened, and now he's no longer in my space. But it was like,
oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, his stuff is going to be in my space for a while. But yeah, it was sort of, there was like, oh, okay, so there was this unfolding of events, and it was very similar to an unfolding of events the last time that he cohabitated with me for a time. So there's like, okay, patterns. Right. We got to remember, remember this, that it doesn't like, it doesn't work out, or it hasn't been working out the way that, your future thinking. And so it's like, but I, before like really doing this work and raising my awareness around my emotions, there was a time when I would have just freaked out and just gotten very dramatic and mean to myself, and it just like, and I don't go there anymore, and it's such a blessing. So I'm just really reflecting that I really, I'm like, I just sort of watched, and I breathed and just got really clear about what was mine and what wasn't, and just allowed those events to unfold and didn't exacerbate it. And I feel so good. And it's like, it's interesting. Kind of the bigger reflection is, I don't think I was completely in my truth when he was here, because there was a part of me that was just like, oh, I feel squished and it feels tight, and I'm just like telling myself, you can adjust, you can do this, is okay. And it really wasn't feeling authentic to myself. And now that's sort of been affirmed. It's just been affirmed, like, yes, no. And today I've gotten so much done. I've been so productive and at peace today because he's not been here. And I have my quiet to, make my audio recordings and make videos and study and, plan and have coaching conversations and all those things that I really, really value the privacy and the sanctity of my space for. So it's been kind of a big, dramatic, but not like dramatic, interesting week, and I'm feeling really good.
Well,
So
that's really awesome. I'm very glad that happened for you.
yeah, me too. And sometimes we don't know, and like in the moment, our ego might be going, no, that's not the way it should be. I've been future thinking and fantasizing, and now you're smudging that. And then you're like, yeah, but that's okay. It's like, this actually feels so much better than what I was trying to talk myself into really, really wanting. So our beliefs are deep. Our beliefs are deeply ingrained, and so in that way, I think when we get to a place of honoring our emotions and learning, how to gather wisdom from our emotions, then we're not so resistant to when things shift and change, right? We're not so bounced about. We're a little more grounded and centered, and can respond in alignment with what resonates. It's like you can feel the difference in your body when something is in alignment.
Absolutely.
Which is a conversation we'll have in a few weeks when we kind of get into that session on instincts, hunches, dreams, and desires, that sort of feeling, as opposed to emotions. So I just wanted to sort of differentiate those things. But
hey, that's really awesome. I like that because I didn't know we were going to have a session like that. That sounds great. But also, how when you're trying to learn how to use your intuition, you can't tell if you're making things up because you don't know what your intuition sounds like versus the other things that are going on in there.
right.
So tonight, the combination of tonight and then that one, that's going to be really eye-opening. That's exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's so awesome to be able to have these conversations. That's really the value of this course more than anything. Is where else would you have an intentioned space to have these conversations and to open up to the differences and the nuances and how we can use these tools. Yeah, so let's see. sort of winging it a little bit tonight. This is actually from page 32 of the workbook for anybody who's looking at the workbook. And the workbook is so good. I mean, it seriously is. And if you teach these kinds of things, it's just really well put together. It's really well organized. But there's a section on page 32. Where do our emotions come from and what do they mean? Emotions are a result of our perspectives, and our perspectives arise from our beliefs. The emotions, so if you had done the work on the previous page, you would have listed a couple of emotions that you'd been feeling and the reasons or causes, if known. And so now we're here, and the emotions that you listed in the previous exercise are only indirectly related to the causes you listed. They are directly related to your underlying beliefs and perceptions about those causes. Our beliefs.
Okay, wait. That was really, really good. Can you say that again, please?
Yeah. So the emotions that you listed in the previous exercise are only indirectly related to the causes you listed. So you're having an emotion and you think the cause is so-and-so cut you off in traffic, right? But they're only indirectly related to those causes. They are directly related to your underlying beliefs and perceptions about those causes. So if I'm pissed off because someone cut me off in traffic, it's really because of the underlying beliefs I have about people who cut me off in traffic, or myself. Like, maybe it could be a limiting belief about myself as a defensive driver. Whatever it is, it's like it's not directly related to the cause. It's indirectly related to the cause. It's directly related to the underlying beliefs and perceptions about those causes.
So I'm sorry to interrupt, but the answer came. The answer to my question just now because of that. Because I bet you it's because I have had so many bad work experiences in the past related to getting along with coworkers and being appreciated and stuff like that. And so it's bringing back, because it's just been so recent that I was in that situation. So it's bringing up all of those beliefs that are in there when it's got nothing to do with my new situation at all.
No. That's it. I mean, that's it. Our beliefs come first, shaping our perceptions, creating emotion. So if you have the belief, I don't get along with women in the workplace, it's going to shape your perception about this new woman in the workplace that you're having to work with, creating your emotion of being triggered. Well, she's not doing things the way that I would do them, or now I've got to check in with her when I was doing just fine, right? Our ego, even if it was a lot of work, that, our ego has perceived rewards, right? That it wants to kind of hold on to, even if they're not in our highest. So not only do our beliefs give rise to our thoughts, but they also give rise to our emotions.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
Awesome. And then I will just point to the rest, the rest of that page on page 32. There's several examples of that. So if you have the belief, people are loving and generous, they want to be helpful, then your perception is going to be, I can trust my family and friends. I live in a safe and giving world. And then the typical emotions are going to be carefree and happy. And then there's a kind of a spot, several more examples like that. On the other end of the spectrum, if your belief is, we are mere mortals with no say in how our life turns out, your perception is, we are victims of circumstance, and your typical emotions are going to be fear, disappointment, and powerlessness. It all stems from those underlying beliefs. And so raising our awareness of our thoughts and our beliefs, raising our awareness to our emotions and using our emotions as a guide, and it's like your built-in guidance system. It's so beautiful and elegant and simple. So that'll take us to the next teaching point. Emotions are life's feedback system. Emotions are more than emotions. So not only do our emotions reveal where we've been, but they can reveal where we're going. Our emotions affect and shape our thoughts, and those thoughts affect and shape our future life experiences. And emotions perpetuate themselves. If we don't try to get a handle on our unpleasant and negative thoughts, not only will they bring us down in the moment with unpleasant emotions, but we will also begin to have unpleasant recurring experiences in the future. So just as our thoughts become things, so do our emotions perpetuate themselves. So if it goes from beliefs to perceptions to emotions, and then your emotions bring forth your thoughts and imagination and words and actions, which leads to your life experiences, which then reinforces those beliefs. So I have shifted my belief that cohabitating is something that is inevitable. I don't feel it is inevitable, and I don't feel like there's anything wrong with like just really having that clean boundary. Because I just taking my own example of how emotions perpetuate themselves, right? I did that cycle twice. I had a belief that I really oughta try cohabitating, which led to perceptions and emotions, thoughts, words, and actions. Then we had that experience of taking off, and then it perpetuated again. So there's something in here that I can really dig into with my own personal work this week. I don't have it clear right now because it's just sort of coming out in our conversation, but I'm seeing clearly that that's a commitment. That's a piece of homework that it would behoove me to take on since it's fresh. Mm-hmm. And there's a great exercise on page 35, changing how you feel. Joy is only ever a few thoughts away. In all cases, emotions that are unpleasant can serve to open our hearts to deeper understanding and greater life truths, which is our teaching point number 3. Unpleasant emotions can point to limiting beliefs about certain situations. Mm-hmm. Fortunately, not all of our emotions need changing, only the unhappy ones. So that's what we'll be talking about. And fortunately, again, we're not at the mercy of our emotions. 90% of the time, we can easily control and change them by changing what we choose to think about, our perceptions. 10% of the time, it may take some effort. Since your beliefs and perceptions create your emotions, examining your beliefs and perceptions is where you can begin changing how you feel. Changing our perceptions is a little easier. So let's go there first. Changing your perceptions. Although our beliefs come first, followed by our thoughts and then our emotions, we don't always have to start at the beginning with our beliefs to enact change. For this approach, we can start with our perceptions, but first, let's look back at your life to uncover gifts you received from challenging times that you overcame. What have been your greatest challenges and what are their related gifts? And so now here, there's like, it's on one side, your greatest challenges have been, and then you list 3. And on the other side, their hidden gifts are, and 3.
Okay.
So do you want to work on this for a minute or two?
Sure.
Okay. Your greatest challenges have been, up to 3 of those, and their hidden gifts are. And let's just pop in whenever you're ready. I'm going to work on it too, if I can find a pen. There we go. All right, I'm ready when you are.
Okay. Okay, so my first greatest challenge, am I supposed to share? Is that
Go
what we're
ahead,
doing right now?
yes. Yes, want to hear it.
My first greatest challenge was childhood. It was nightmarish. And the hidden gift was that I got to evolve into this fabulous me that sits before you.
Indeed.
My second greatest challenge was raising children. Probably it was so challenging because being a child was so challenging. And the hidden gift that has come is that I have just beautiful, tight, close relationships with all 3 of my kids.
Amen.
And my third greatest challenge was getting out of doing jobs because they paid the bills and getting into doing the work that fills my heart with joy. And the hidden gift in all of that whole challenge was getting to do the work that fills my heart with joy.
Right. There's gold. There's gold in the dark. There's gold underneath. I'm reminded of the story of the hidden Buddha. Do you know that one?
I don't think I do.
I'm going to paraphrase it. So there was a monastery. There was this monastery centuries ago, hidden off, secluded, and they had a golden Buddha. They had this big golden Buddha, and then one day they got word that the marauders were coming, and that there was like, and they didn't have a lot of time. And so they said, we need to hide. We need to hide the golden Buddha under some mud. And so they all just like started putting mud all over the Buddha. And then of course it hardened. And, by the time the marauders came, they just went right by it because they didn't see the value. And that's kind of like, who we are. We come forth and we are completely golden, and then because of fear or circumstances, or we're taught how to hide our light, and then time passes and we even forget ourselves, right? There's this kind of weird amnesia about how awesome we are, and we believe that we're unimportant, or whatever it is, however that just regular old ordinary Buddha, nothing special, right? And as we do this work, so the end of the story is centuries later it's discovered, and people just think it's this stone Buddha, but one day someone is like picking something up and they see at an angle there's this glint, and they check it out and they begin to chip it away, and voila, right? It's been there all along. It's like Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz. It was in our grasp all along. We just had to come to that place of self-discovery, which is the gift of the challenge. I mean, like, if you can use these challenges as an opportunity to be curious and dig a little deeper and see what's underneath, you're going to find this amazing, beautiful gold. And you may not even believe it at first yourself, right? And that's what, like, next week we're talking about taking action. And I think it's in the taking action, in alignment with these new empowering beliefs, that we prove the truth to ourselves. Somehow, it's not even so much for other people, but showing up consistently in our authenticity, in our light, we are proclaiming and being the identity of who we authentically are. And it may take time for other people to adjust to that, and some of those relationships may fall away because if you change, it means they have to change. And they may not be ready for that, right? So it's just really such powerful work when we can recognize that power we have of choice and interpretation. Essentially, perception is our interpretation. What are we making it mean about ourselves or the world? What is the judgment, the limiting belief that is kind of, become hardened and crystallized. Because every challenges we encounter brings with it gifts that make us more than who we were before the challenge arose. In hindsight, this exercise is easy, but what about your challenges today? What if you could change how you perceive them? If you could realize now that they are making you more, wouldn't this completely change how you feel? This exercise does just that. It helps you change how you feel by changing how you perceive. So yeah, that's pretty good. That's a
Great.
That's a pretty good class. Let me see if there's anything else I wanted to share with you. And then maybe you have some other. Oh, here we go. Okay. Yeah, this is just, it's just one more example. I'm upset because I feel that my friend doesn't care about me. I don't like being upset. It's unpleasant. So I decide to examine what's really going on. My friend didn't return an important phone call. That is actual factual data. My friend not returning my phone call is not the root of my emotion. It's my perception about her not calling me back. I perceived that she didn't call me back because she doesn't care about me. This can be traced back to my own limiting belief that I'm not important. This perception might lead me to feel sad, angry, or rejected. If I switch to a new perception, I might see the possibility that my friend was really just busy. This is a different perception that will lead to a new and more uplifting emotion. And that's kind of what it comes down to it, right? It's like, how do you want to feel? Because we can't control what the people around us do or don't do or say or don't say. So if we are pinning our happiness on what other people's do or say or don't do or don't say, and what we make that mean about our, it's just like we're completely shutting off our own power to create the experience that we'd like to have, which is feeling happy. And it's like I just feel so good about this work and the consistency. That was it. That was like one thing I wanted to share. Let me see if I can find that, because I was making notes too. Oh, okay. So my 3 challenges. So, well, you and I had the first one, but I actually didn't write that first one down about childhood. I wrote down working mother, particularly I feel like my field was the hardest to be a working mother because the schedule was just so out of control and you just kind of had to be constantly working or looking for work, which, made that balance of mothering and working really challenging. But the gift in it is I got really good at scheduling and accountability. And these are skills that I've been, I've continued to use, and they serve me really well to think outside of the box, to get innovative, find ways of, creating win-wins, scheduling, negotiating. The second challenge was being separated from my children. Hugely painful over the stretch of many, many years. I still feel some of that pain of separation. But the gift has been, at the end of the day, I'm forced to do my own work and develop that consistency of intention and energy. Because I noticed sometimes when I'd be going to visit them, I'd get in my head and in my expectations of what it needed to be in order, for me to know, everything was okay. And if they didn't respond in a certain way, I would get triggered. I mean, it's just, there's a lot of healing there for everyone. But when I stayed really consistent in my work and in my intention and in my energy, that they know how much I love them, like no matter what, right? And so my consistency was also in communicating that and being really consistent in, you know, our phone calls and following through, you know, in any way I could, right? Because that just builds that safety and that trust. So that's been the gift, is that kind of like that consistency of, you know, holding that intention and that energy. And then the third ongoing challenge I just chalked up as codependency. And so the gift of moving through those challenges is where we are now, right? I began to do some work around that, which led to integrative coaching, which led to the work that I'm doing now, and, you know, practicing boundaries and communication. So the gift of codependency is interdependency, learning to find that peaceful, right balance. And so there's huge gifts in this work.
So before this meeting, I was reading a chapter because I'm in, well, it's a kind of an informal book group, and we decided to reread the number one book that changed my life, saved my life, everything, and that's The Celestine Prophecy.
Right.
And so I was reading a chapter called The Interpersonal Ethic, and it is all about codependency and how the reason for it, the underlying reason in reality, is that we all have this connection to our source that we may or may not be aware of, but that when we start getting a lot of attention from a person, we get used to getting that attention from that person, and we forget that we have our own source of energy. So we rely on that person for our energy, and when they don't give it to us in the amounts or the consistency or whatever that we feel like we need it, then that's when communication breakdown happens, because we have completely forgotten our connection with our source.
Right. Wow. Yeah. Oh, that gives me chills.
Yeah, it's the synchronicity of the conversations is really phenomenal.
There's a lot of synchronicity going on right now. It's kind of blowing my mind. I'm like, all right, I must be on the right track then. That's what I'm interpreting that as. That's my perception, is that we must be on the right track. It's being affirmed and reaffirmed. And there's something very powerful about repetition. And we're going to be talking about that next week when the session is taking action. And I was recording one of the chapters that goes with that lesson, and it's just like, oh yeah, it's very closely tied to rehearsal, you know, physical and mental rehearsal, and acting as if. And I was just like, I was narrating this chapter today, and I'm like, the light bulb is going off. It's like, Wendy, this is acting. These are acting techniques. These are theater techniques that people learn to be good actors in telling a story. And the audience, here's something, I don't know if we're getting too far off on a tangent. I'm sure you've heard the term willing suspension of disbelief.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of the unspoken contract that the audience enters into when they enter the theater and the lights go down, and they consciously know what they're looking at is pretend, but they choose to willingly suspend their disbelief for the time of the play. And then the actor's job is also to suspend their own disbelief and to temporarily adopt the beliefs and the persona and the goals and objectives of the character that they're playing. And the actors, they practice this thing called subtext, which is all about thinking the thoughts that the character would think in order to take the actions that they're taking and feel the feelings that they're feeling and express it vocally in the way that they would. And like everything is sourced from here. And so, you know, I'm like, the mirror of my life is just really powerful right now, that all of this stuff is, I can teach people how to act as if. I've been doing it my whole adult life. And so, you know, to really take action and maximize our visualization techniques is about rehearsing, like actually physically rehearsing the things that you will be doing after you reach your goal, along with the things that you would do to reach that goal. But it's like, it's multi-layered, it's luscious. I'm really excited about teaching these techniques and practicing them myself, and everywhere we're going with this goodness.
Yeah, it just fits together with everything else that's going on right now. It's amazing, and it's very exciting. I think because all of the work that I'm putting in is really causing my life to take off in the direction I want it to go. And so the more skills I can add in there, the better it's going to be.
Right, right, and the environment. We're sort of creating an environment of support where, you know, where it's where you go when you know everyone's speaking your language and rooting you on, right? And we're creating that in several different places, right? I know you have MAP and you have your book group, and I have my women's group, and we've got the Way of Truth, and you know that it's in a lot of different communities, but yeah, and that's that kind of multi-layered experience of supportive community too, is that you'll have these different subcultures around you all rooting you on. Yeah, and when you are in alignment, you do get that. I mean, people gravitate towards you. They're like, yeah, okay, you keep doing that. How can I help you keep doing that? Yeah. So it's an exciting time, and I'm so blessed to be with you tonight. I feel like we're probably at a good place to close, and that would give me us an hour until our full moon call. Do you feel complete, Shelley?
I do. I feel fantastic. Thank you very much. This was great.
Thank you, darling. All right, I'm going to stop my share. Here we go. And Renetta and Melanie, I hope that you are watching this and getting a whole bunch out of this, and we love you lots. Mwah. Bye, everyone.